Hey everybody, I'm Logan Alec, CPA from Choice Tax Relief. Happy Friday, happy Friday. Today, I'm going to be telling you about this case that I'm going to be following quite closely here. This case involves an IRS agent out of the Boston, Massachusetts area being charged with filing false tax returns. Yes, this just came out this week. IRS agent, this is from the United States Attorney's Office for Massachusetts. IRS revenue agent indicted for filing false tax returns. This press release was made a couple days ago. I'm going to actually get into the docs here, the actual affidavit from the IRS criminal investigator, the special agent, in support of this charge, of this indictment. Now, just to be clear, this individual, this IRS agent, has not been found guilty, and we know in our legal system, folks are innocent until proven guilty. But she has been charged with this crime. I want to talk about it because it interests me today. I'm going to be following this case, see what happens to this individual who has been charged with this crime. And by the way, folks, this isn't some low-level IRS employee who just got hired like 2 months ago. This is an individual who has been with the IRS for almost 2 decades, who has worked as a revenue agent auditing big, huge, billion-dollar businesses, while she herself has been charged with the crime of overstating deductions on her own tax return in an attempt to defraud the government of income taxes. So again, this individual has not been found guilty yet. She has simply been charged at this point, right? That's what indicted means. Okay, she's been charged with this crime. But I'm going to walk through this statement by the IRS special agent. Rebecca Limage is her name. And just go through the facts here. This is interesting to me. You know, I mean, it's just fascinating to me. You know, if these allegations are true, that someone who works for the IRS, has almost 20 years of experience with the IRS. She is a CPA. She has bachelor's and master's degrees, I believe, in accounting. She teaches ethics at a university near her. How someone like this could get caught up in something like this, right? Anyway, let's go through this affidavit here, just because it's interesting. So this is where the agent introduces herself. She says she's a special agent in the Boston, Massachusetts field office for about 5 years now. And this is the individual who has been charged with this crime. Ndeye Amy Thioub. I'm just going to call her Amy just to keep things short. So she's been charged with filing false tax returns. Okay. For fraudulently claiming thousands of dollars in false business expenses for at least the tax years 2017 through 2019. This individual, Amy, has been employed by the IRS as a revenue agent since 2006 and assigned to the Large Business and International Division, conducting independent field examinations and related investigations of complex income tax returns filed by large businesses, corporations, and organizations. As such, she has extensive and specialized knowledge of accounting techniques, practices, and audit techniques, and she examines and resolves various tax issues of individuals and business organizations that may include extensive national and or international subsidiaries. So, wow. This is why they're cracking down so hard on this lady, okay? Because she knew, you know, if there was some fraudulent activity here going on, right? She is held to such a high standard, right, for this kind of thing because of her background, because of her experience, because of her education, right? She knew what she was doing was wrong. It's not like somebody who goes to like some, shady tax preparer who puts all their deductions on the return, and they say, okay, here's your tax return, sign it, and they kind of flip through the pages. Okay, my refund looks kind of big. She's like, oh yeah, the tax preparer's like, oh yeah, I did some specials, took some special credits for you that you're eligible for, and the taxpayer who's not a tax professional is like, oh okay, they sign the return, they send it in, right? They get audited, right? They'll be audited, and they'll probably have to pay significant penalties. But will it go criminal? Probably not, right? Probably not. That's the reality of things if the dollar amount's not too large, right? I mean, they'll be hurting with the penalties and interest and things like that, but it probably won't go criminal. This case, it's not a very large dollar amount. I think the total dollar amount, they say in here that she the overstated deductions was like less than $100,000, right? So in terms of tax revenue, it's not too big, right? Lost tax revenue to the government. But it's because she's a federal employee, and specifically an IRS employee, that I think they're bringing charges here against this individual and really bringing down the hammer. Right, she has a master's degree in accounting. She was licensed as a CPA since 2010. And get this, visiting instructor at Salem State University, where she's taught college-level classes on ethics, among other things, okay? And so she had a Schedule C attached to her tax return for tax year 17 through 19. What's a Schedule C? Schedule C is one of these. This is the form that, if you have 1099 NEC income, you're a 1099 independent contractor, right? You have your own business that isn't supposed to file another tax return, like a corporate tax return or a partnership tax return or something like that. You're reporting your business income, your sole prop income here on this Schedule C. You fill out information about your business up here. You complete information about your income here for your business, and then your expenses down here. And there's like home office expense down here. And this is your net business income or loss, right? So this is saying that for 17 through 19, she had a Schedule C, right? That's not unusual. There are millions of Schedule Cs filed every year. Now, Schedule Cs are subject to close scrutiny under audit because they tend to be abused, as at least the government is saying, is charging this woman with doing in this case. All right, let's keep going down here. All right, here we go. So how did this start? How did the IRS catch this lady? And this, this might be of interest to some of you folks out there who's wondering, how does the IRS catch, tax crooks, right? Or how they even catch like people who are just lying on their tax returns in an audit, right? Well, this can give you some clues here. In or around May 2019, an IRS criminal investigation investigative analyst, an IA, with the Boston field office began reviewing information relating to taxpayers with large Schedule C losses over a number of consecutive tax years that may have exceeded the presumption test as outlined in Internal Revenue Code 183D. Okay, so pause and let me just tell you something from our own practice here. We help folks who have not filed taxes in many years and who don't have records of their business income and loss, really. And we have ways of reconstructing their books and estimating, expenses and things like that, right? But what we won't do, unless the client has a good set of books that reconciles to bank statements, books that either they have prepared or we have prepared for them, is claim a loss on Schedule C. Okay, we're not going to estimate a loss on Schedule C, right? If you're saying, hey, your business lost money that year, either you got to create a set of books and give it to us, or you can pay us for bookkeeping, right? Because these Schedule C losses, especially over a certain dollar amount, are looked at so closely. I don't know what the threshold here was for this this assignment that this IA was on, but I'm sure they probably had a threshold, like maybe like $30,000. All Schedule C losses over $30,000 over like 5 consecutive years or 3 consecutive years, I guess in this case. Look into those. Take a closer look at these, okay? And it says, during his review of these large Schedule C losses for consecutive years, the analyst noticed that one of the taxpayers with large consecutive C losses for tax years 2010 through 2017 had a W-2 from the IRS, okay? The IA also noted, get this, that the internet service provider listed for 4 of the taxpayers' filings was the IRS. So this individual e-filed her returns from an IRS office. And the analyst subsequently identified the taxpayer as this employee who has been charged, Amy Thioub, and provided the information he gathered to Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. These returns were self-prepared. And again, they were filed from the IRS office. And for each tax year, 2017 through 19, Amy filed a Schedule C claiming a net loss from a business, which net loss was carried over to her Form 1040 and used to reduce Thioub's adjusted gross income and ultimate tax liability, right? Because if you get a loss in your Schedule C, it will reduce your taxable income, right? If you have income from other sources like a W-2 job, such as from the IRS, as this individual did, okay? So on her Schedule C, she says she's a proprietor, says sale of new and used goods as a principal business or profession, didn't include a business name on the Schedule C. Well, let's go down here first. So this is showing her income from the return, right? This person, she was doing pretty well. She was making, $100,000 a year, right? You can from her W-2 job from the IRS. Then there might be a job from that New Hampshire college too. And here's what her Schedule C looks like. She's saying she's got for 2017, $14,000 in gross receipts, $33,000 in cost of goods sold and $23,000 other expenses for a net profit loss of $42,000, or net loss of $42,000, net loss of $20,000 in 2018, not net loss of $27,000 in 2019, right? So big losses here, right? That she was able to apply against her W-2 income, right? So instead of being taxed on $99,000, she's only taxed for that year on $56,000, right? Almost cutting her tax bill in half probably, right? So that was suspicious to the investigative analyst. And now this part of this affidavit goes through all the kind of businesses she set up. And you might be asking, well, you know, I mean, maybe she did set up these bits. She set up like some nonprofits, right? The purpose was to provide essential resources to underserved communities of Senegal, in West Africa, and most of the people of St. Louis, Senegal, also known as Ndeye and its surrounding areas, and address the root causes of their chronic unemployment and lack of resources. Okay, and it got 501c3 status. And you might be thinking here, okay, well, maybe she did have these businesses, and maybe she did have these losses in these businesses, and maybe they're legit, right? Maybe she was trying to make money doing this, and it just didn't work out, and, you know, it just didn't work out. Right? Because, I mean, you hear hobby loss rules, like 3 years of losses in a row, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, then maybe the presumption isn't that the activity is pursued for profit. But many businesses that have a profit motive lose money for a long time, right? But there's still the end goal of having a profit motive. So you might be wondering that right now, and I was wondering that too. I was like, well, just because these businesses have these big losses doesn't mean that, you know, they're fake. But then here's what they did. So they started interviewing people. They started interviewing people who Amy listed as directors of these businesses and nonprofit organizations to see what they say about the situation. So it says a relative of Amy and a purported director of one of her businesses testified that she formed the organization, you know, to help these underprivileged children in Senegal. And this individual testified she had lived with Thioub until December 2021, and she wasn't sure whether Amy Thioub had ever been in the import-export business, which is what she was claiming to be in. And she wasn't sure whether Amy had any source of income besides IRS and Salem State University. They talked to other folks, though, who basically said, we knew Amy worked for the IRS and this University of New Hampshire, but we didn't know she made money any other ways, right? So, you know, based on kind of these statements from these friends and even a relative of hers, they didn't really think she made money anywhere else other than her employment at the IRS and that university, right? They also did her email accounts, right? To see, well, okay, maybe she has all these receipts for these things that she was trying to buy and resell for money, for a profit. You know, maybe that would shed some light on the situation. But they looked over her email accounts, lots of email accounts here. This Amy Thioub one, right? Amy Thioub at yahoo.com, whatever. Let's see. They basically looked at the header information, and they didn't really see like the email header. They didn't like read every single word of every single email. They just kind of looked at the titles of the emails. So they're saying a review of the header information did not reveal context that appear related to a business in the years in question, right? They looked at this email address that she purported that she created one of her business's names, right? It only had 17 emails, right, in that email account, and they were all dated in 2022, right, which is after these years she claimed these huge losses. She had this other email address here. It says the email header information revealed that the account only held 39 emails, right, from the 1819 time period. A review of the header information did not reveal context that appeared related to a business, right? So they interviewed people, right, associated with these supposed businesses who are also her neighbors, and some of them were her neighbors. They looked at her email accounts. They also did her bank accounts to see if there's any support, you know, for this business that she supposedly was running. And so this section goes into all these bank accounts. I'm not going to kind of go into it here. But basically, an interesting thing is that the investigator says that her review of Amy's accounts says that there are some expenses there that could be consistent with an import, export, or resale business, right? So it says that Amy and her children had access to a storage unit for which Thioub made monthly payments. That could be personal, but it could be business related too, if you're kind of buying and reselling things for profit. And Amy made multiple purchases between 2017 and 2019 at thrift stores, totaling approximately $12,000, and at Costco, totaling approximately $7,000. Okay? Again, those could just be personal though, right? Like, people buy stuff at Costco all the time. People buy stuff at thrift stores all the time. And the investigator's conclusion is there's no evidence that she operated a for-profit business, right? Further, the total amount of debits from thrift stores and Costco, which could conceivably be attributed to a resale or import-export business, are a fraction of the cost of goods sold and other expenses claimed by Amy on her Schedule Cs for the relevant time period. So even if everything she bought at Costco, all $7,000, and everything she bought at these thrift stores, all $12,000, was business related, it's still less than the amounts that she's claiming as a cost of goods sold and other expenses on her Schedule C. Okay, so kind of the conclusion of this investigator is, based on the foregoing, I respectfully submit there is probable cause to believe that Amy willfully made and subscribed IRS Form 1040s for tax years 17 through 19, which contained or were verified by a written declaration that they were made under the penalties of perjury, and in which she did not believe to be true and correct as to every material matter. Specifically, Amy reported her Form 1040 total income by approximately $42,000, $20,000, and $27,000 for tax years 2017, 2018, and 19, respectively. Her understatement of her total income resulted in additional tax due and owing of approximately $9,497, $4,519, $6,495 for tax years 2017, 2018, and 2019, respectively, for a total of approximately $20,500. Only $20,000, folks. That's it, right? But because she's an IRS agent, she's held to such a high standard, and she knew what she was doing was wrong, if in fact she was doing something wrong, which has not been found in court yet. Again, she's only been charged. She hasn't been found guilty. Okay, just want to make that clear. But yeah, so that's the situation here with this IRS agent. I'm going to be following this case. Always interesting to me when the good guys are charged, at least, with being bad guys. So if you have any questions about this or anything else related to tax relief or taxes, please leave a comment in the description below. I might feature you in one of these videos. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.